Well, I do. Evening, folks. Thanks for coming in. Hope you're still enjoying the sunny weather. So tonight we have a man who I'm not sure if we've had him on or not, because I was talking to Sarah about this before. I think we did have him on, but it was way gone in the past.
It was right at the start. Right at the start, yeah.
It was when I had hair, and before I got my good looks.
Scott, you've never had hair. Right.
As you hear the parrot in the background there. You know what I mean? We'll get the founder of Ghost Hunter Scotland, Alex Dorrans, in. And it's a guy, I could never remember the name of your group, bud. So I actually put it down. I don't think you can see it. I don't know what it is. He gets, there's groups out there, with big long names, and you remember them, no bother.
Aye.
And then you
just
get
a wee short name.
Aye, then you get a wee short name or something, and it's just every time you go and talk to a person, it's like Willie Armstrong for Paranormal Exposures. Him and Cat, they stay, and I always get it mixed up. They've told me about 1,000 times. It's either Iowa or Idaho. I know it's next door to Oregon.
Iowa.
I was just being corrected again. But it's something that, it doesn't matter how many times people tell you, you just forget it.
Oh,
No doubt you've had moments like that as well.
Oh, all the time. Especially as I start to get a bit older.
No, but I'm not blaming it on age. I'm not going to, I've been reminded a few times about my age and stuff like that, and I'm not going to go down that road because I'm still a young pup. So, but if he snigger, Sarah's behind here actually, just there that way, sitting on the couch. So you'll hear the odd comment or a wee snigger or something. So tell us about the group and how it started, because it's been that long since I joined. I can't remember.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we started out back in 2003, and it mainly just the sort of foundations of why the group came to be was because I'm sensitive to spirit, and I started to explore it a bit more because I wanted to understand maybe why these things were happening and others couldn't maybe see or hear or sense things, that kind of thing. So I just wanted to be sure for my own health that things were all right. But that sort of side of it comes with like any new or starting up sensitive or whatever can take comfort in the fact that you get that through, or that comfort through validation. So as long as you're doing things the right ways, effectively, so find a group of people, obviously, that enjoy investigating the paranormal, bring them together, and you're the best option if you're a sensitive, although unfortunately for me, obviously leading a group as well, it was hard to kind of put a distance between me doing locations and me not knowing what we're doing. So eventually I put faith in the group, I just put it together, let the locations manager handle that side of it. So I just wouldn't know where I was going. Ian, the driver, he would turn up and he's like, right, well, he's not just the driver, he's like the skeptic of the group, and the tech sort of guy, So he comes, he picks us up, and we just load up the car with the cases and head off to wherever we're going. There's no preconceived notion of where we're going for me, because I don't know. It could be a jail, could be a pub, could be whatever, and we just kind of work in that principle. And it actually helps great for the validations, because you don't know where you're going and anything like that. You don't. You can't be accused of researching it or anything like that, because you're just pretty much just dropped.
Dropped in it.
Yeah. So that's the sort of principle behind how we work. And like I say, it was 2003, and it was just to kind of tick a few boxes for myself to make sure that everything was above board, and we've just came along in strength since then. When we started it initially, I think there was only, it was us initially, and then there was a couple of other groups that started up, and we kind of built that in. We kind of sort of built together. But it was well before Facebook and all that. Obviously, you're talking things like the old forums and stuff like that used to be on the PCs.
I don't remember. I'm damn way too young for that.
Most people will be about forums, but it used to be just a website you created, and then it would be like a chat forum on it and things like that, and that's how we used to communicate and stuff like that. And we usually get locations through. They've got a contact us on our website, so people would either drop a wee note in there. So it could be anything from businesses to private residencies or whatever that are looking to have their property investigated for whatever reason it might be. But outside of that, we also obviously have a researcher that looks for locations and researches all the history, etc., and then is there to validate it on the night.
Mm. Do you have any kind of location that you sort of favour, or a preferred type of location to go to, or just is it anywhere?
Well, so like it's trying to compress everything down into like 21 years down into,
It's a long time, innit? I didn't realise it was that long.
Yeah. So we're like pretty much the oldest group starting, but I'm trying to think. Probably Ravens Park Asylum was a really good one to start with. So I don't know if you ever had the chance to kind of look at that years ago when it was still up, but that place was absolutely amazing. It had a underlying feel to it that was just really edgy and spooky, and a lot of stuff, just weird things were kind of happening, noises. We tried to get some voice recordings going. Got an actual cracker. It's on our Facebook page from it. We were standing there, and I says, we're standing there whether to decide to go into this kind of room where it was just like a sense, a feeling, if you like, foreboding kind of thing. So we were kind of hanging back a wee bit at the doorway. What do you think? Discussing it. And you can hear a whisper. We didn't hear it at the time, but when we played back the footage, you can hear there's just like a wee whisper, and you need to actually dig right down. See, when I was just pulling together the footage from, because we lost a hard drive that had a lot of the old stuff on it, so I've got bits and bobs for the past, but not everything. So when I did find the likes of stuff from there, I was going through some of it, and I happened to just when you're EVP guy that manages your voice recordings, you'll probably be familiar with the soundtrack, and so when it runs along, there's this tiny wee edge to indicate that there's been a voice there.
Aye.
Nobody's talking.
I'm not tech-minded, but I've sat with Sarah and Laura many a time, and you get it's like a heart monitor.
Aye, kind of like that, yeah. It shows you the waves, yeah, the sound waves.
See, I'm really talking about there. Aye.
Yeah. So we're looking at that, and you could just see it, and I thought, what's that? So I brought basically all the audio down, and then sort of raised the background noise up to see if I could hear what that was, and I could hear definitely something talking. So then I just dropped all the noise out of the clip and just listened to that solely, and then I was able to clean it up, and I could hear the voice that was talking at the time, and I was like, oh my god, and it's a Class A as well. Like when we talk about EVPs, for people that aren't aware of them, there's 3 different classifications. A being everybody understands it 100%. There's no way, any other way that it is. You definitely heard that word. Class B sounds very much like, but isn't, or is it or isn't, and obviously Class C looks like a response, but you just can't make it out,
Kate's asking, just answer, Kate. We can't stream on. I was just saying to Alex before we came on there, Kate. We can't because Facebook stopped live streaming of any third-party platforms about a month ago or something like that, 3-4 weeks ago now. So we can't use StreamYard. There's a lot of groups and stuff in the same boat. Just Facebook will just know what you use StreamYard, and that's the technical side of it. That's what I can tell. I don't understand the technical side of it, but Facebook says no more, basically.
Probably something to do with the Muller.
Oh, possibly. I mean, also, Rigger and us were quite close, and it was actually Rigger that told me about it. And he says maybe Facebook's planning on starting up their own kind of streaming platform.
Yeah, I mean, they probably are going to be doing something like that. I was just thinking from a licensing point of view. Could be, don't know. Yes, but it's a shame that that's happened, right enough, because it will affect a lot of groups,
As we've cut down on our shows, I'd guest booked to the through June, and I've kept, but I've not added anybody else on until we maybe try and find another platform or something like that. But with us doing doing other stuff, we just no time to hunt about. Right. We were on the other night, and we were talking about it after the show. I had this bother before with an echo with my headphones. So I'm going. Just 2 seconds, right? I'm going to go and grab my headphones.
Yeah. Okay.
Just talk amongst yourselves. They're in the room, but I'll be 2 seconds. And see that I can't hear an echo.
I can hear an echo from time to time. That's why I put these in.
It's probably my headphones. There is a way. See, Kate, if you had a page, a public page open prior to the ban, then you can still use it. If you try to start up a new page, then since the ban, they'll not let you use it. There will be a way. I'm sorry about this, Alex. Give us 2 seconds.
Aye, no bother.
And I'll be right back. So talk amongst yourselves.
Aye. So I was just going to say that if anyone's wanting to ask anything in particular about tech, the background of experiences we've had, how to start up groups or just anything in general, just fire them all out there and we'll just have a bit of banter. I'm big on the tech. I love the tech side of things because I feel that you can prove things a lot more with that. It gives you some sort of evidence, if you like, that you can fall back on to say, well, we did this, this, and this, and here's what the results were. So I think it helps massively for that. Whether that not helps actual spirit communication, different story. Some people say it affects it. They're attracted to the energy of the stuff you're using. Batteries, that's one of the theories, because the batteries deplete. But batteries will deplete in the cold. You've got to be aware of that as well. So it just depends where you are. If you're internal in a place, it's heating and everything else natural. Shouldn't be experiencing that side of things. If you're external and it's bad weather, cold, you're probably going to see a bit of battery drainage.
Sorry, Alex, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Is there any echo?
Nope.
No, we're echo free. So
echo free.
What did I miss?
I was just explaining to everybody, just like if you've got any tech questions or anything specifically related that they might want to ask with regards to teams or anything really, just chuck them all out there. And I'll do my best to answer them from my experience, and that's it. That's all I can do. But yeah. I think you were talking about locations earlier, and although Ravens Park was an absolute brilliant location, but since then, you know, there's been some really good ones that we've been to, but there've been like private residencies and things like that. Where like one in particular that springs to my mind, and this one's absolutely off the charts. So I'll start at the beginning, but I'll try and be brief with it. We get contacted by a family that were looking for some help regarding poltergeist activity. They were saying that they had priests in and stuff like that to bless the house and stuff like that. Then they actually had a proper exorcism. Try to remember what it's called, the name of it, but basically to rid the spirit from the house. Now, at that point, obviously, first initially, like anybody else, you know, you treat things obviously with a skeptical nature. You've got to, but it doesn't mean you disbelieve them. You're just like, right, well, okay, so you know, I've got to look after my team and myself, obviously as well, right? So you need to establish some ground between yourselves before you just drop and go, you know. So I was like, right, so you know, do you still have the priest number, you know? And he said, yeah, I'll just get it for you. And I was like, oh my god, right, okay, he's got that. Wow, you know, I wasn't expecting that. So he gave me it. So I phoned. This guy, this was actually a minister. This one, but there were other faiths present. And so, well, initially I didn't get him, but in the end I did. And what he said was that when I mentioned why I was calling on behalf of, he was like, "Oh, geez," he says, "I remember that case," and he says, "If ever there was proof of life after death, it's that house." You know, and I was like, okay, and that actually took me by surprise because normally you're met with some kind of resistance from you know, like the heads of faith, etc., things like that, or
because they kind of frown upon it because it
they
goes
frown
against.
upon it. Yeah, because their perspective is basically, when you die, you go to heaven or you go to hell, possibly limbo, but you're not here. You know,
I don't
this
hang
is it
about.
done. Aye, this is it done. So that was God's plan, if you like, or whatever. So they kind of frown upon the fact that there might be these things kicking about normally. However, and ironically, of course, there's the Holy Ghost. But anyway, so I asked him about, like, so what was your experience of the house? So what he then had said, because the boy that contacted me initially had already explained all this to us, but I wanted to hear it obviously from his perspective to see how it, you know, matched, if you like.
I tallied up.
Aye, yeah, but wow, it was just like, he says, if ever there's proof after life or death, it's this house. He says it is. They were round the table doing this. I think is it an Eucharist or something like that. Anyway, they were doing this particular ritual, and the doors just flew open. We had the windows rattling, the walls were heating up, all sorts of stuff, right? And I was like, oh, geez. And the guy had said as well, wallpaper just peels off the walls. Doesn't matter what you do, you put it up and it just peels off the walls. And I was like, right, wow, that's pretty incredible. So he was telling me something, well, a lot more actually, but and I was absolutely gobsmacked by it all. I just couldn't, like, from him to say that to me, I was expecting resistance, but for him to say that to me, I was like, wow, that's amazing. And then so I asked if I could go up and meet him. So he said yeah, and then we obviously had a wee sit down, a talk, and explained that I'd be going there on behalf of his request to see if I could help him in any way because it's still there. So he had offered his help in extending again, if we needed someone that, he would be on tap effectively. But I thought to myself, well, if it didn't work initially, then perhaps it's maybe better taking a different route,
Mm-hmm.
and then see how we go. My personal opinion on that is, or sort of viewpoint on that is that, and no disrespect to obviously people of faith and stuff like that, but if you, or even the representatives of the churches, but if you go into a house and you do the blessings, or the power of Christ compels you kind of thing. What if they're not religious? Like, does that do anything? The person that was here in life may have been agnostic or whatever, or a different entire faith. Certainly hasn't met God yet or went anywhere. It's still there. So when someone walks in and goes like that, by the way, the power of Christ compels you, he's not suddenly going to go, crap, I better get out of this house.
Kate's asking with the Protestant or Catholic. I'm assuming they were Catholic because they contacted a priest.
Aye. Well, that's it. I mean, I think they were just trying everything. There was people of all different faiths that were there trying it, and none of it worked. So I thought, well, I'll try something different. So initially, when we got there, we sort of, it was a hard place to find because it was like an old farmhouse, right? But but when we got there, when we were traveling up there, we kept missing. There's this wee tiny turning, right, but it's obviously pure pitch black, right? So it's easy to miss. So we kept traveling up and down this road. I'm going, we're meant to turn somewhere, but I can't see it, and we couldn't we just couldn't see this place. So I ended up phoning and saying, listen, any chance you could meet us and take us up, because like we've been up and down this road, I can't see where we're supposed to go.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I know bother. So then he comes in his Land Rover and then drives us up this dirt track kind of thing. So that's fine. And then we're getting into darkness and all that, and I'm going like, this is what you see in horror movies. Like, we're just going to be murdered here.
Straw dogs or something like that.
Yeah, we're just, they'll just take us up this dark path and going to kill us. So anyway, yeah, we got to the house and obviously everything was fine. Got out, went to the place, and we could feel there was something there. Certainly, the family was quite edgy. They were very obviously eager to get us, or to get help of any kind, really. So I was like, right, well, let's first of all try and find out where he is effectively, and maybe if he communicates with us what he wants, and maybe we can come to an understanding. Perhaps it's just something simple like that. So we tried that, and we split into two teams, which is something again you don't do if you watch any horror movies. You never say, "Let's split up." But anyway, it was a big farmhouse, so it was quite a big space, So okay, so anyway, team A went that way and we went this way, right? So we were back in the bedrooms at the far end of the house, and the we had the responses we were getting were absolutely brilliant. I must admit, they were absolutely great. But so what was coming through to me was this guy in a sort of mechanic's outfit kind of thing. He was like kind of like the overalls and all that jazz. Used to work on cars and stuff like that. He's looking after the boys because the boys were just young at the time. And had got his name and stuff like that as well. Now, so we had one of the owners with us, and then one of the owners with the other team. So the person that was with us was the guy, and he was actually able to validate that point, because he says everything that I described, including the job and his name, was his dad. And I says, well, that makes sense because he's looking after the kids, or looking over the kids, trying to help them for this guy. But anyway, he was then saying effectively, and I use, this is the thing as well, right? I often say he was insane, right? But mainly it's impressions I get, right? So when I say he's saying, it's an impression I'm generally getting. Sometimes I hear, but the majority of the time it's just impressions, images, or just a thought, if you like, rather than actually physically chatting. So I would, he then basically gave us the information to be wary of Robert. He's the guy that's causing all the problems, right? So I was like, right, okay, so we've got a name, Robert. I says, just for skeptic point of view, right? Can you just indulge us a wee bit here, right? And it'll just go off track a wee bit. We're here to help these people, but we'll just try to get a wee bit in return as well. So the boys were next door. They were playing, or had been playing, a game on their console. So I says, could you just go through to the other room and have a look at what's on the television and tell us what the name of that game is? And the boy says, right, I'll go and bring it up. I'll bring the title screen up on the thing for him. So that was fine. Up it comes. And, we hit the record and try to get the information. And it came back, and it wasn't all. It was Call of Duty. And that came back on the recorder. And we're like, oh, wow, that is so good. That is amazing. Thanks so much. I says, right, well, anyway, we're not here for all this, but thanks very much. Like, let's look for this guy, Robert. And it was basically like, we then went to give Team A the information that we'd got. So we then met up with them at the other end of the farmhouse. And as we walked in the door, like, shh, we're taking voice recordings here. I've got somebody we're talking to. And I was like, right, okay, cool. So they asked a couple of questions, and then they stopped. And then when they stopped, because you give complete silence when the voice recording's going on, as not to contaminate anything. So the questions were asked, the voice recorder was on, and I had then, once it stopped, I then said, right, listen, we've got the name of the person we need to watch out for. His name's Robert. And he's causing all the bother. So we need to kind of try and figure out what's going on with him. And their sort of faces hit the floor because the person they'd been speaking to was Robert. So everything was correlating. It was great. It was good for validation. And it was a good night in that respect. Regards to helping the family, what we then did was, so over the years I've tried various different things, crystals, all sorts of different things to try and cleanse, houses or thingy, just absolutely trying everything to try and help people until eventually we've figured out the only thing that seems to work. And this is going off not me just saying it, this is going off the feedback from all the families that we've helped. It seems to be white sage. So when you're sort of doing the smudging of white sage around the house, I think it seems to disturb the energy or whatever it is, whatever they're resonating on. They were talking quantum physics here. So I don't know what it does, but whatever it does, it interferes with it in whatever way it does. And because of that, maybe everything is all made of molecules, and they all vibrate at a different frequency, or a different level, subtly. Even concrete and stuff like that, even though it's solid, it still vibrates at a certain level. So I think the smudging, effectively, the white sage, whatever it does, it affects or disturbs that whatever they're resonating on, the frequency that they're resonating on, it disturbs it, and then they seem to. You need to. What we've discovered is it works in the short time, but then they come back. Now, if they come back, the idea would be generally right. Well, if it's persistent, keep making the place inhospitable for them. Just keep smudging until the problem goes away entirely. Because eventually they'll get fed up. If they can't
I was
do
just going to
anything,
say that if they keep coming back, keep doing the same thing, I'm kind of this. I'm going to go somewhere else.
Yeah, 100%. So that's the only thing over the years that I would say that. Well, not the only thing, we've obviously discovered quite a bit on it, but one of the main things certainly for helping people with these kind of issues is the white sage smudging. For whatever reason, it works. And the families have had peace of mind. And like I say, the ones that have come back, they've continued the smudging, and that's sort of helped that. So it has to be white sage. For some reason, I don't know why white sage works. Not white sage with a lilac scent or whatever, because I don't know whether the colouring slightly vibrates or changes the whatever it's doing.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever it is, it doesn't work. So it needs to be the white sage. Somebody's just chucked up a question there. I don't know what it is.
I've got a couple of questions lined up for you. Kate's saying it's been studied that white sage grounds you. Your energy becomes the dominant one, hence the shift. It relieves stress, anxiety, and negativity.
Yeah. A lot of cultures, different cultures use it. Like that's what I'm saying. Like we looked at all sorts of different aspects across the spectrum to try and help people. And like I say, the main one is the white sage. Now, the old American Indians used it for the evil spirits and stuff they called them, to ward them off and stuff like that. So yeah, even historically, for times past, there appears to be something in it that they were aware of. So it's just something that it's not something we came up with. We looked at all different cultures, we looked at different things, and then we thought, right, we'll try this, and this, and the sage seems to be the thing that seems to work.
It's nothing new, this, it's been about for centuries in different cultures and what have you, so there must be something.
I'm just trying to save everybody time, like people might get asked, can you come and help me out? Take the sage sticks, go for it. Try and get the evidence, try and figure out, because another solution is, of course, you go to a place and you can hook up with a spirit, and they can give you information that perhaps the reason why they're unsettled could be anything down to an untimely demise, shall we say, or something like that. And they want to give the information over as, listen, this happened to me. It was this lot that did it, or whatever, or I was innocent and I was, I was.
They like to play their names, the old unfinished business scenario,
especially some of the older spirits going further back, because, like integrity and things like that, like that was your sole guidance, wasn't it? It was like you had to be of strength and character. Like your word was your bond. 100%, not just I'll get around to doing it. It was 100%. Right, if I give you that bond, it's agreed. And
it was a big belief in reputation as well.
Yeah, exactly. So to have that besmudged would be quite upsetting for them.
Mm-hmm. I totally get that, and that relates. I'll come to where that relates to in a wee bit. So, 2 questions for you so far. One's for Kate and one's for Laura.
Yep.
What's your definition of a ghost? And I should say and or. So, what do you think the difference is between a ghost and a spirit?
A ghost and a spirit, right? Okay. So, my definition of that is a ghost and a spirit are 2 separate things. A ghost will not interact with you physically. It won't acknowledge your existence. It will play out as a recording that's been basically trapped in time, if you like, not trapped, but saved, recorded. It's playing out. It's not an actual physical person there anymore. It's a recorded image of whatever took place there. I'll come back to why in a second, just because there's a bit longer explanation to that one. But and the spirit obviously will interact with you. It is intelligent. It gives you information. It, I'll come back with the voice recordings answering maybe some questions, or perhaps not, telling you, look, piss off, get out, or whatever. As you were in life, as you are in death, kind of thing. So it really just depends on that from certainly my experience. So, but for a ghost perspective, there's a couple of reasons that I've thought about how this could possibly happen. Sorry, I've got a dog in the background that's found a chew toy.
That's fine. Sometimes we get bothered with cats. We get two cats that can jump about. So the actual energy that has happened, so it's strong enough, whatever's happened at the time, to record that information. So like an act of violence, so we just say, just as an example, could be anything, but let's just say an act of violence, because of the aggression, because of the energy leash or whatever it is, it's lashed out. If there's potential for copper or any kind of conductor elements that are in the brickwork to potentially receive that, but it has to be stored somewhere. So the question is, it might receive, but where's it stored? So my question to that then is that I believe, and it might be something to do with why they're not there all the time. I think it must be something to do with either not the lunar cycles, because we looked at that as well, and that doesn't seem to make a difference. And over the years that we've done it anyway, don't really notice much of a difference at all. But like something that is, if the ground maybe has a high content of quartz crystal or something like that, and so the crystal retains or can retain memory, because there's memory, there's chips, computer chips that are crystal chips, and they can hold that memory for over 1 million years easy, right? There's, if you Google up the crystal memory chip, it'll tell you exactly how long it can store it. Something like that. It's well over 1 million anyway. Possibly 1 billion. I don't know. Honestly can't remember. It's a huge figure anyway. But it does retain it. So why does it play out particularly, or why is that? So to me, it could be maybe even something to do with the plates or the energy released in the ground, or some kind of thing happening there whereby it then releases, or there's an energy release which triggers or powers the crystal or does something which effectively then plays out the image that's been stored there. And that's just all theory, but it's based on how things can work physically just now in the world we live in. So that's how I perceive it. Not quite sure how it all fits together, but I'm pretty sure it has something to do with it. And that's how I think ghosts are effectively created. You hear of so many cases, residual hauntings and what. I've got quite a few comments, which I will catch up with folks, and I've got a question for Laura. But you've just put a question in my head now, Alex.
Yeah.
Talk about ghosts and spirits and what have you. And there's that many accounts, residual hauntings and what have you. We picked up some at Caldwell, some EVPs, mechanical and stuff like that. And Caldwell is just a shell, and there's no physical thing that could make the noises that we picked up. But anyway, what's your take on the anniversary hauntings? you know, I mean, I'll give you Jane Seymour. She's seen every year, reported seen every year at the bottom of the starlight staircase, which led to, you know, her son Edward's bedroom. This is reported every year that she's been seen, and Berlin as well.
Right.
Has been seen. You know, these kind of anniversary hauntings. What's your take on them?
Well, my take on that is then that I don't think that's a ghost. I would suspect, well, it could be a ghost playing out particularly at that particular time each time, but if it is doing it every time on that year, then you've got case closed, positive proof. Because all you need to do is wait for it to happen, film, and boom, Bob's your uncle. You know, or if it doesn't record on film, just get your witnesses, get your science students in, get your university lecturers to to monitor. Once you've witnessed it, maybe 2 years in a row, they say, look, this definitely happens. Third year, bring everybody down, boom. You know, then it becomes. I think it's 5 times. Well, no, sorry, it's not. I'm thinking of something else, and I'm thinking of new atoms that have been discovered, or not atoms, quarks. Basically, science has discovered 3 new particles of energy that they didn't know existed before. Which brings me again to the fact that we're getting closer to now science taking it more seriously, because just because you don't see it doesn't mean it isn't there. So 100% I would say, like, take the Aurora Borealis the other night, the Northern Lights or whatever. Right? You look up at the sky, most people can't see it. I mean, it was there, but you can see it, but not as bright. But when you hold up the phone, boom, all of a sudden it really lights up proper. So you can see it, but you see it a lot better on the phone as well. But maybe not as subtle. So maybe someone that, just at passing looking up would be like, oh, there's nothing there, but there is. So that exists, but yet it's not visible.
I've said this many times, people. One example I usually use, it's quite basic, but it's along the same lines. You get a TV, you get TV aerials on top of houses and stuff. You're looking at the aerial, you can't see nothing, but there's a signal going out to that aerial.
Yes.
Because the person's sitting in the house watching telly. So it's kind of along the same lines. I totally agree. Even though you can't see it, just make you say it's not there.
Yes. Which is what we're exploring as well. So we've had we've been using the infrared cameras obviously for day dot really, and they picked up some interesting anomalies initially. So we'll factor down to orbs the age-old argument, if you like. A lot of people saying it's dust, a lot of people saying it's spirit. What is it exactly? Well, for me, if I can recreate that, and science looks at it the same way, if you can recreate that, then that's it, myth busted, done. And we recreated it quite easily. You've got a wee handful of dust or flour, whatever you want to use, something anyway, and just toss it into the air, let the particles sort themselves out as they float, flip the camera on, turn it on, and there's all your ghosts,
Aye, there's all your orbs.
There's all your orbs, floating by and everything like that. So to me, initially, it was a huge, or it had, because it was unknown technology at the time, because we moved from the physical form of the old photographs to digital format. And when we did that, that's when we started seeing these anomalies that were happening. So the question then lies, like, was it a spirit? Was it something else? That kind of thing. And that really got me interesting, because the more I looked at it, the more I could see faces and more I could see other things. I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. And then that progressed me further into the field of looking at it more. I took it to the University Archie Roy in Glasgow to get it looked at to see what his thoughts were on it. So he was basically like a professor of the paranormal, if you like. So he looked at it, and they got a photography expert to look at it as well, and they said it's nothing but basically a refraction of light off a particle that's been caught on the flash, the element, So fine. I was a bit disappointed with it because I was like, I can see faces. How is that? I was dead convinced. But then I started to then understand a bit more about it as I looked further into it and discovered that there's such things as like pareidolia, or as Americans call it, matrixing, which basically is effectively the same way you look at the clouds and you see maybe a dog in the clouds and you're like, oh, look at that.
Sheep or elephants or something.
Yeah. Oh, that looks like a dog up there. Well, it's not a dog, it's just a cloud, but your brain is rigged that way to try and make sense of, sorting out patterns and shapes and problem solving. So you're going to do that. It's just an initial thought. That's what happens. And the same thing happens when you look at a photograph. Oh, that looks like a face, or that looks like... And it really, it's just generally something. I'm not dismissing all photographs right across the thing, All I'm trying to do is say that, well, one, that was my experience of it. But two, you've got to be, when you're a paranormal investigator, or you're interested in investigating this side of things and just curious about it and things like that, you've got to be open enough, minded enough to extend your scope of thought across all spectrums of what it might be before it's, you have to consider the normal before it's paranormal, basically. That's how it works.
Exactly. You need to take a step back. We've only had one, just for a catch up with Laura's question in the comments. We'll go through them. Orbs, it's an age-old argument. Do they exist? There's people say aye, people say no. It's just, but we've only ever once got a photograph of what we're not saying it was an orb, but it was at Dunure Castle. You've been to Dunure Castle, haven't you?
Dunure, aye. Yeah.
Aye. Well, Sarah was sitting on the steps that lead up to the prison area, and so she was facing up the hill, and we got taking photos late at night, and one of the photos we noticed later on had this perfect white circle, and what used to be, I think it was a doorway that's right in front of you. You know yourself, there's no lights about. I mean, there's houses away up the top of the hill, This was in the doorway, the opening, and we just could not explain it because there was nothing that could explain it. I don't know if she's still got it. I'll find out, but that's the only time we've got a kind of photograph, possibly, of an orb. But we're not saying for definite it was. But it's just one of these things you can't explain. But there's an argument for them and an argument against them. But so everything,
We'll see on the actual odd phenomenon, right? There are what I call true energy orbs. There are true energy orbs, but the true energy orbs are very different from just the contaminants that you pick up. So, like a true energy orb, you can actually see the way it travels. It's almost like a wisp, a tail. And it moves. I've only kind of mainly caught it on the ultraviolet, which takes me back. I know I'm jumping a bit, but when we talked about invisible light or seeing things that weren't there, kind of thing. So we got a camera that was custom built for us by a physicist over in the States, because he's interested in or looking into things that potentially we can't see, because you've got obviously the infrared field, or it goes the other way, sorry, and the ultraviolet. So two ends of the spectrum, and we're right in the middle. So we see what we see and how we see it as filtered. but you know, like this is going to sound strange to a lot of people, but the actual colour outside, effectively, of Earth. So if someone else, or some other intelligence, or someone like us, but didn't have the same filter that we have, that our eyes use, effectively, um, they would see the world differently, because the world is like a sort of purple haze. It's purple, and that's something else you can Google and a check on as well. The colour is actually purple. It's not blue. It's not thing. Well, blue gets through a lot more for our eyes to be able to pick it up. That's how we see it, as that, but it's not. It's actually sort of pinky, not purple, but like a lilac-y colour. And but we are obviously rigged the way we see it, or the way our eyes are set up. It's like RGB, the red, green, blue. So we can only see a certain amount of colours, whereas there's a load of other colours outside of that. You know, the reds and the thingies. So that's we're sort of filtering that. We're missing that, and we only see what we see out there. You know, the way we have always seen it. But anyone that sees it without that filter, take away that filter and look above it, you see it as it is. So I guess if you were to take away this is where the full spectrum cameras come in, right? So tech-wise, for me, there's no such thing as a full spectrum, right? One, because you can't see in the full spectrum, because our rig out, our own rig out, won't let us do it. Infrared is light that we can't see. Ultraviolet is light that we can't see, both at other ends of the spectrum. We can only see at this length. What the full spectrum camera effectively does is, the people that brought this out initially, all they've done is take out that filter. So basically, they broke the camera and selling you a broken camera. But the camera shows you what you would be looking at had you not got that filter, which is interesting. But it's not. But it's not anything different than what you're. You know, you're not looking at. You're looking at maybe near infrared or near ultraviolet. You're certainly not looking into infrared or ultraviolet, or even deep infrared or deep ultraviolet. You're just looking at the normal spectrum, effectively, without the filter. So that's why I don't put any stock in the full spectrum cameras, because they're just cameras, just for the filter removed.
So we don't do a lot of tech. We're not a very tech team. We prefer a basic approach, which I'll come to it. I'm going to stick up Laura's question there for a couple of minutes and run through there's a few comments to get through. So Laura's wanting to know your best piece of evidence caught. Best, I can't see that comment. Okay, best piece of evidence you've caught, or never mind. You can read it. Sorry, Laura.
Right, best piece of evidence, right? Okay, so taking it from that. So, sorry, my eyesight's absolutely gubbed, and I don't have my glasses, so I can't read it. But
best piece of evidence you've caught, sight, or heard.
Right. Okay. So that is a tough one, because there's quite a lot, let's say, a length of time that we've been doing it. But the one that always springs to mind every time someone asks me that is this. It was basically it was a voice recording that we captured, and this was off the DR60s. And we basically, what we'd done was, and we do this quite often as well, we'd left one just running in the room, right, just to see if there's anything going on while we're away. So we'd left it running, and we went down and did up whatever it was we were doing. And then we came back up, collected the recorder, and we played it back. And I kid you not, and I've still to bring myself to to properly enhance it enough to give a full cleared up version, because you can hear a lot of it really clearly, but there's more there, and it's quite harrowing, unfortunately. Like, it's basically what sounds like a murder that's been caught on audio, just running.
Mm-hmm.
And that, when we looked at it further, there was a murder that had taken place at that specific spot. And basically what was happening was the female was in distress. She was crying out, screaming, pleading. And there was a guy there as well pleading for her. And then another guy who was performing the act in front of this guy and to the woman. And sorry, I know I'm being really vague here, but I'm trying not to distress anybody that might be watching that's underage. So it was quite harrowing to listen to over and over and over, because when you get these voice recordings, you're listening to them, you're going, right, let's go that. What's that saying? What's that? But that was just one that really creeped me out, and it was so horrid to listen to over and over and over that I just went, I'm going to shelve this and I will come back to it. It's definitely one of the best pieces of evidence we've captured, but one of the ones that I haven't made public because I've just left it on the shelf now to, get around to doing it, properly.
You can put it out when you're ready. But that's the
Yeah,
thing,
I mean,
sometimes
you can hear the screaming and everything. There's like screaming all the way through it. It's absolutely horrific.
Well, maybe I better just keep that on to yourself in case you do upset people.
No, well, that's it. But the see, this is the thing, right? The event, if it is that event, I don't know if it is, but if it is that event that took place there, then that event happened centuries ago. So it's most likely a ghost recording that we've picked up.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it would be like affecting families that are here now, but still, it is quite harrowing to hear. And sometimes you get that, Scott. That's another thing. Sometimes you get some great evidence, but you can't speak to anyone about it because you're protecting family, or you're protecting people involved. Things
That's
like that.
the thing. You do need to be careful sometimes, and it can be annoying because you might get a great piece of evidence, but you don't know who's out there, family wise, relative, whatever.
Yeah.
That might still be kicking
I keep that for myself, because anything we get,
hear it.
yeah. When I say myself, the team obviously as well, but like it's kind of just behind closed doors, that one, because not that one, but just anything we do get that is personal, because I'm very strong on that. I'm very strict with that. Like, if there is something that's there related to a person, say it's like a missing person, which there's been quite a few over the years that we've done or been involved with, or maybe like a murder case or whatever, or something like that. But there's things that have happened over the years that you just can't talk about them, unfortunately. But they're great evidence,
Mm-hmm. I'll run through his comments. Where did I get to? I lost where I got to. I had one for Kate and one for Laura about the sage. Use a second, buddy. I will find them there. See, when you're trying to find something, you're scrolling up and down. You can't find it. Aye. And you keep running by it. We studied that White Sage grounds you. No, that's the wrong one. Sorry, Kate. It's that one there. Aye. Studies said that White Sage just empowers you, though I don't think personally we do anything spirit-wise. Laura's put up. In my experience, says there's nothing. We have tried talking to a spirit, tried ignoring them, and now we live with it. It's a female, older, who sits in a rocking chair, knitting. meaning no harm. So you're taking mental imprint manifestations. You're talking, sorry, manifestations. Time slips are definitely the most interesting one, trying in the quantum physics and time alignment.
Right, see, on that particular subject, right, if that's one that interests you. Now, going back to that, right, so the time element, there was and this is going back to that case with the poltergeist and the family, and obviously the people of faith and stuff like that. Now, I had, because of the gravity of it, I started thinking, maybe I should just film this, as we go, kind of thing. Like, let's just make our own wee sort of documentary of it, if you like, because it sounded absolutely fascinating. So I thought, right, well, I'll film myself making these calls, right? So I'd phoned Glasgow University, I think it was, or I think that's what it was with the lectures. Trying to think if it goes under a different name. Anyway, so I'd phoned them to basically to speak to Archie Roy's replacement because Archie had passed away. And I got the secretary, and she says, "What? No. Archie's quite with us. He's still here." And I was like, "Oh, that's great," and all that. And I was really embarrassed by it, because I thought basically what had happened was a researcher at the time had told us I had passed, right? So I was like, right, okay. So I went in with that, without thinking anything of it, just went in with it, right? Just saying, look, sorry to hear that he's passed now. Good guy. Spoke to him in the previously about some things, so it'll be missed. But that was my thoughts. I'm thinking, but anyway, the actual point, she goes, no, he's still with us. He's doing a lecture right now, and I'm like, oh my god. I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Well, that's great news for him, like kind of laughed it off. But I was like, oh god, that's a nightmare. So after I come off the call, because this is like, I can't remember what it was now. I was just like, there was a looking to maybe get in touch with him again afterwards. I think that's what it was, because obviously he was busy anyway. So as soon as I come off the call anyway, I phoned a researcher at the time. I was like, oh my god, like, how could you do this to me? I've just phoned this place, said, oh, sorry, he's dead, but he's not dead. And she goes like, no, he is dead. And I'm like, well, she's just told me she's doing a lecture. And then it's like, no. And the lecture. So she had then said to me, no, he is dead. I'll send you over his obituary. So sure enough, fires it over. There's his obituary. There's his picture. It's definitely him. And I'm like, what? What the hell's going on? So I thought, right, well, I'll pick this up later. I've got a few other calls to make, and then I'll come back. So I did, and as it would happen, first of all, they had no recollection of that conversation taking place. Then I was like, no, what? And I says, right, well, I'm looking to speak to whoever's taking Archie's place to get some feedback. So I managed to get the person, and they phoned me back. I was at work in night shift at the time, so they phoned me back, and I just got talking to them about the place because they'd sort of been before as well, just to get a feel for what they'd experienced while they were there. And so it was quite shocking, because when that woman spoke to me, she was 100% certain, no, he's giving a lecture, and that's that. She even said, I have no that kind of jazz. I even got it in film because, like I say, was thinking at the time, oh, I'll just do it as a wee mini doc for us, like just piecing something together.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you can find that one on our Facebook page as well, because that's on one of the short outtakes, because it's about 15 minutes in total. But basically, I pieced together the full recorded conversation that we took place. Then I had to enhance the audio because I started losing the battery power really quickly on my phone at the time. And I was like, what's going on with this? Because that was another weird thing, because it sits in a cradle charging, so it's always fully charged. It was one of the house phones, so it just started to drop. I lost the audio on the call, but so I had to kind of get up, close to try and hear what was going on for the for whoever was going to be seeing it. So I had to actually raise the volume level on the footage to then bring out what she was saying. So it sounds a wee bit kind of rough, if you like, because I've had to enhance the noise, but you can hear it. And she's saying no noise with us, and I've even put the subtitles up as well, so you can read what's going on as well. And then I show the obituary, and I also show the file at the time of when that took place. So I've got the date and everything like that, and then I've got the date of when he passed, and they don't match. So whatever happened during that instance, whatever it was strange, because he was up doing a lecture, alive and kicking apparently at the time. But then the question has to be asked, well, what happened there? If he was up doing a lecture at the time and she was 100% certain, and also specifically says no, he's not dead, then sounds crazy saying out loud, but did you make a connection with the past or something like that? Is this something that you connected to for some reason, and you've spoke to someone from back, but then when you've phoned the current, they don't have any recollection of the call? It's just weird. It's a whole weird thing. But that was just to chip in.
That's a mind blower, that one. That's
totally blew my mind. And again, just because it was dealing with this poltergeist case, I was starting to think, what is going on here? And the priest had said, that was another thing, sorry, the minister had said to me, have you ever seen like steel bars? Like the wee trellis now, you get the steel trellis and stuff like that. He says, have you ever seen them just bend as you're passing them? And I was like, bend? He says, actually bend, like fold down. He says that there's nothing, it was really nasty in that house. And I was like, holy crap. I mean, we were investigating it, and we were actually there to try and tackle it, to cover the white sage comment as well there. So basically what was happening was, and obviously we just get the right to think what they want about white sage or whatever. It's entirely up to them. I'm only going off what we've experienced and try to pass it along. But the sage. So basically, what was happening is, as we were doing that to try and I gave it to the family to kind of walk about to smudge the house effectively to try and help them take control back. So they felt like they were actually taking control back. So they were doing that. But as they were doing that, the walls were heating up, the windows were steaming up, and I thought to myself, well, there's where the wallpaper comes from, because first we noticed it in the windows, all the windows started steaming up, and then, we felt the walls were warm. And I had had the thermal camera at the time properly, I would have, shoved it straight on it to see what it was doing, because that was one of the things they had explained that was happening. The wallpaper was coming off, and I thought, well, that's going to come off if you heat the walls, the paste, So
it's just simple, you heat the wall up, paste melts, paper falls off. I'll stick up submerged class A today. Laura and I, we went up to Caldwell and taking photographs, and Laura told me, well, her and Sarah had planned it together, that when Laura and I went up. She was to tell me to bugger off, and she was going to do a wee EVP session. It's what Caldwell. It's a big story. Just kind of cut it down. Just what you were saying earlier on about you get certain locations that you walk into and you can feel that there's stuff going on.
Yeah.
Round about you. Caldwell's like that as well. As soon as you walk into the estate, you just feel the whole. It's a 280-acre estate. It's massive, and there's several. Well, there are ruins now. There's several buildings.
That actually does sound familiar. Is there a see when you walk in, right? It's all shrubs and that round about it, is it? Or sort of bushes? Aye. And then as you go down, like further into it, you go down and there's like where all the sort of storage wine cellars were and all that down below, at the very bottom underneath. Aye, right. Aye, I have been. Yeah.
Aye, that's about. We were there for about 2 months. About 2.5, 3 years ago or something. We'd done numerous, and the amount of evidence we got there was unbelievable. I'd never ever let us down. So, Laura, I'm going to listen to that tomorrow, dear, and I'll probably send it to you as well, Alex. And so you worked with Kieran O'Keefe and Richard Felix, is that right?
Yes, yeah. So somebody's been snooping about the website.
Somebody's been Googling you.
Yeah, no, so that was at the Ghost Fest event in Edinburgh. So it used to happen every year. We used to do Ghost Fest. And it would basically, this is when we used to run events at the time. And they were hugely popular. So in fact, they would have interested you as well, actually, because this particular was in Greyfriars.
Right.
So Kieran O'Keefe was there, and he was obviously being Kieran O'Keefe and dismissing everything, to a degree. But one of the things that I catch him on was I was explaining to Kieran about first of all the photograph that I took initially at the time, because this goes way back, let's say, so we're talking 2008, maybe 7, somewhere around about there, 2009. Anyway, so with Kieran, I was showing him the photograph, and it looked like we'd actually captured a side profile of someone's face, with the collar and everything and the hair. It just looked so convincing. But then obviously pareidolia and everything else comes into play, and that's what Kieran had said. You know what I'm going to say, don't you? And I was pareidolia. Yeah. And I went, yeah, fair play, man. I mean, I expect nothing less, and to be fair, it's probably something I would say anyway. So, but it interested me, but I was showing them, and I was showing the sort of crowd of people as well. But then when we went outside, and we'd mentioned a bit like getting some readings in Greyfriars. Now, you're not going to, or in the sort of cut in the sort of graveyard bit. Sorry, not the actual graveyard, through the gates,
The Covenanters.
Yeah, sorry, the Covenanters prison. Couldn't get the word there. So we were in there, right, and we were getting some readings on the EMF meter. And so Kieran was there at the time, and he says, "Oh, that's obviously just coming from that building right there. There's a building over there behind the thing." And I says, "Are you telling me, right? And are you telling me that this piece of equipment is capable of picking up an electric reading from that building over there, from here?" And he looks at it and he goes, "No." And I went like, "Right, okay. So let's just wipe that clean." He says, "Well, it's obviously cables running under the ground. That's what it is." And I says, "And when did anyone last get permission to lay electric cables under a graveyard? Never. You're not going to disturb. You're not going to disturb the dead to lay cables. Excuse me, it's just Virgin piping some cable through here, mate.
Aye.
Don't mind if I just chuck this through your eye socket, do you?"
Well, there's no cables.
I know. Exactly. So there was an unusual reading to happen in the centre of that particular area. And that's another thing when we come down to talking about readings and why we use the equipment and what is the equipment used for, right? So that they're not ghost meters by any chance. So obviously that they're not sold as that because science hasn't proven effectively that there are ghosts. So there's no ghost meters out there. So we have to go in theory. And the theory that we're running with currently is that the spirit, when we pass from one form to another, moves into changes. Sorry, I'll go back a wee bit. The first law that currently science is aware of in thermodynamics is that energy can't be destroyed. Right. So if that's a rule going across the science, then it's a rule right across the board. So we are made of energy. We work energy. Kinetic energy, and just going like this and whatever else. We're actually producing energy. All the cells in our body are producing energy to be able to do stuff. Our heart's producing energy for our body and everything else. Even talking right now, the air coming out my mouth, like that's air, that's energy. That's, it's all connected. So when we pass, then theoretically, given the rules of science as well that they've established, then we should move from one form to another. And science has already proven that, so I don't know why the hell they're, discussing that ghosts don't exist if they've already made it a rule. And this is my bugbear. I always say that to people, when I'm talking to them about it, and they're at that sort of level when they're discussing it from a scientific point of view, but like, yeah, but so your first law in thermodynamics is energy can't be destroyed, right? But then you're saying now that it can be, except on this one particular occasion. No, it doesn't say that in the rules at all. So basically, the way it's set is, if we pass, then our form must transform from one to another. And I always used to use the analogy of a butterfly, caterpillar, butterfly. It changes from the caterpillar to the butterfly. Wings, away you go. Almost looks like a different creature entirely from what it used to be. And I imagine it's a similar thing, except we change from the form that we're currently in, which is basically obviously effectively a 3D form, into a fourth dimension entity, something that, because we don't have the physical constraints of our body here, and it's energy we move into, then energy is able to pass through whatever it is, like walls or whatever it is, just it's able to do different things perhaps that we can't, right? Again, you're talking about quantum physics and things like that, theoretical physics, all of that kind of thing. And when you're talking about the theory and everything else, you've got to look at, well, if that's first of all a rule, then we must, by science law, defer to that rule with our theory, because science is based on, you take the theory, any existing theory you're trying to prove, it's basically been proven, and then build on it, your theory from that, so it's tangible. So to me, it's the same thing. You're taking an already proven rule, you're looking at what we are as a physical being, then as the physical being passes, although so obviously sometimes might be painful and everything else, the process, but it is literally one form to another. We just can't see it yet. We don't know what it looks like. And it also might take a different form. It's certainly not 3D any longer. So is it a 4D form? If it's a 4D form, then the fourth dimension, according to science, effectively is time, from what I understand. So moving into that, then assuming that it is that case and you are made of energy, fourth dimension moving into time, then you would be able to sort of travel from different elements in time. Now, how that happens or how quick it happens, I don't know. But it might explain, and this is another thing that brought into my mind, where people go, I was just thinking of my dad the other day, and, I'm pretty sure I've seen him. I was just thinking of my dad the other day, and something popped into my head, and lo and behold, I went and asked my mum, and sure enough, there it was. So just different things like that. So basically, you're sending out perhaps a I thought, because they definitely communicate, well, when I say definitely, you can't really say anything's definite in this, but presumably, and I'm only going off again my own experience, but if it's thought that they communicate by, which I believe it to be, then you putting out that thought to them, if they are, you don't know how fourth dimension works or anything like that, if it's a time thing, they could be checking in you at any time throughout the entire span of your existence, if you like. So they could possibly hit that point 3 months from now, but it would still be in your book that day that you're thinking about. They've discovered that all it wants to talk to me,
Mm-hmm.
and then boom, because again, being a being that's able to move, or an energy being that's able to move between dimensions or into another dimension, especially time, has the freedom to then travel for anywhere through time, theoretically, because
Aye, in
that's
theory.
in
I
theory, because that's what a fourth dimension would be according to science. So yeah,
I get what you mean, do the communicate telepathically. I believe we can talk to each other. We picked up EVPs at Caldwell and Loudon. Very, very clear EVPs of spirit talk to each other. One of them, one of the ones we got to Caldwell was, it sounded there was maybe 3 or 4 of them together. There was a male trying to speak, and there was a woman, we called her the matron, and she said, "Shh, they can see you very, very clearly." Loudon, as you know, we've been in Loudon, we've been up at the Farnham as well. A couple of investigations I've said, I was up at your house, Mr. Dempster, and, having a wee look about, and we've picked up EVPs. It's usually always a female saying, he's been up at the house. He was at the house. The last investigation we did there with Rosie Cardy, we got numerous EVPs. One was asking us quite clearly, are you ghosts? We've never ever been asked that. And the word ghost kind of struck us as well, because it's kind of unusual, So it's just our opinion for what we've picked up, that they do talk to each other. What they talk about, I don't know, but
I mean, it could be anything, couldn't it? I guess as well, you wouldn't have to know one another. Like, it's the same here. You could walk over to the shops, not know the next person next to you, but still have a conversation with them. So I don't see it being any different if another spirit met a spirit, and they're like, "Oh, what's your experience been?" And be a bit of banter back and forth. Perhaps they travel back and forth with one another, just as spirit buddies, if you like, or whatever, but didn't meet in life. Who knows? It might also explain why, on a lot of occasions, certain people appear at locations that you just don't relate to, or why they're here. We're if you think about it in that, it's very shallow and close-minded of us to think that, because they weren't here during their life, then they shouldn't be here, or that's not them. You're not picking up the right person, because just as you can go to the Kirk or whatever, or the prison, Covenanters prison, you didn't spend any time there. You certainly didn't die there. So, but you visited it. That's almost like saying you should stay in the house, Scott, and you never have to leave that house because that's where you stay.
You don't have to go anywhere else.
Just so that for the purposes of research, when we do come up with your name, we can make the fact that, yes, Scott used to live there. You probably get that, certainly I. But what my point is, obviously, is that you do go elsewhere in your life. You travel. You go to India, you go to, different countries. So why would you have the thought that whoever you're communicating with might necessarily be from that place all the time,
No, that's it. Who's I don't think spirit's restricted. I think when we pass, you can go wherever the hell you want.
Yeah.
If you've never been to America, you can go and visit America. I know that might sound daft to some people, but maybe it is just that simple. Do you know what I mean?
I think it is.
I've never been to America, so I'm going to show off. And
again, going back to theory and the element, right? If you no longer have the physical constraints of this world, gravity, all the other things, the aspects of it, you don't have anything like that here. So for me, if you don't have any of those tie downs, then perhaps it's a whole different way of, moving and thinking and, everything else. Traveling, because if it is a 4D entity, energy, being, whatever, and it's able to, and it is fourth dimension, say time or whatever, then surely it can get to A to B within a split second. Because just going off like the elements of science, effectively, with fourth dimension is time. If you're a fourth dimensional being and that is time, then surely you should be able to just flip between the pages of a book, and just what about that, But I might be wrong, but it just seems like in my mind the way I'm thinking, well, surely if it's that, then time doesn't matter to us any longer. You could see it probably laid out to you, but maybe not. I don't know.
I've spoken to a few folk that are the same, when we pass, we're standing here and we just need to think of a place and we're there, basically, could be true. I've got a question for Laura that she put up ages ago. I do apologise, though. I'm going to stick it up the new. She put it up about half an hour ago. What does a blue orb mean? And this is why she's asking. My son hates getting his photo taken, but every picture I take, there's a bluish orb around him. His grandmother's father's side died when I was pregnant. It's strange.
Honestly, I don't know. I really don't know. If it's a true energy orb, again, it could just be the point when the photograph is taken. It could be a multi-coloured thing. If you're getting a lot of blue orbs specifically, I don't know. I really don't know the answer to that. I can't give anything that jumps out in my head why it would explain that. You should, if it's dust particles and things like that, then I would suspect that you would normally get a blue orb, a green orb, whatever, a white orb, but not always a blue orb. That sounds unusual.
It's the same colour all the time. She's also asking, have you heard of Maura Murray?
Have I heard more of Murray?
Moira, I don't know if she spelled it. Laura's mentioned this a few times, this particular story about a lady, and to be honest with you, I've forgotten what it was about, but I don't know if it's Moira Murray or Mora.
Oh, have I heard of Moira Murray?
Aye.
Nope, I don't think so.
Laura Murray case, she's sets with. Cases, I think its vibrations are key to science understanding the paranormal. Energy is okay, but understanding how it's created is the key. That's a mind puzzle. E equals MC. We sign MC squared. Is that right?
MC squared.
I remember that from school.
Yeah.
I remember. Energy becomes matter atoms. We have billions of atoms, and we distribute that when we pass. Vibrate onwards. Boris, too much for Scott. He's from Glasgow. Explains a lot, but I get that. I think that's a wee slagging I'm getting.
Sounds like it. Sounds like it.
I think it's a wee. Laura, I know where you live. You live like 2 minutes away from me, though. I know where you are. It's the brain that confines what we sense. We cannot comprehend fourth dimensions and above. However, without a body, who knows what our consciousness could do.
Yeah,
exactly.
just because we can't comprehend it doesn't mean we can't speculate. That's the difference. There's two different analogies there, right? I understand what the point is there, because if you like, don't have any paper next to me, but if you drew a line, right, on a paper, like that's one dimension. That's a one-dimensional line, right? So then you draw a line across from it, and that's like two dimensions effectively. You know,
Hmm.
you flip that, you join them up from that to that to that. That makes a triangle. That's three dimensions. Now, how could a one-dimensional entity, or whatever you want to call it, person, understand or comprehend what a third dimensional creature looks like? They couldn't probably understand what they look like, but they could certainly speculate what it might be like. Because again, if they have the same sort of conversations and the same things as we do, then you'll be like, well, what if there are other dimensions out there? What would that look like? Well, we know we're one dimensional, so how do we go from there? Well, the next one would be two. Well, what would that look like? Well, presumably it would be this and this, but we just don't know because we can't really figure it out. And it does come down to that. We can't understand what a fourth dimensional entity would look like, or what it could do, or how it could do it, because we aren't there yet. We haven't met one. We aren't, we don't know anything about that. But it doesn't stop us from speculating. And that's how I would see it. So I always, whenever I speculate on something, I kind of look for science as the backbone of it, and I look for it and go, right, well, what's the argument there, or what is it that explains this particular phenomenon I'm looking at? And then you would look at it and go, right, well, is it possible that, based on your current understanding? So again, that's how science works. You take the current understanding of what's been approved by science, and then theorize and put it on there. So it's like theoretical physics or current
Hmm.
physics. So it'd be really interesting. It'd be interesting to see what happens once they get the quantum computers off the ground. What that's going to look like.
Yeah, I've got another question for Kate to put to you. What your 2 seconds is? Albert Einstein says everything is energy, and that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get the reality. It can be no other way. Kate says science is always developing. I've got a question here for you. Kate was on last week, but John was on last week, and Kate came on as well. And started getting into sciencey bit. And no offense to anybody who's into science, including yourself, young man. To be honest, I said last week, I'm too thick for the sciencey stuff. I think that's actually what Laura meant, because I'm from Glasgow kind of thing.
All right, okay. So
I'm there, but I never, would you say, man? I never caught that.
So am I. I'm from Glasgow as well, though.
Aye, but it's Laura. I think that's what she meant. I don't know. I will find out what she meant by it. I forgot what I was saying. Aye, so all the sciencey stuff, that's why I prefer to stick to the basic, because I'm in the frame of mind that spirit is basic. As we were saying earlier on, when we shut our eyes, we go from one place to I believe it's as simple as that. We shut our eyes here and we open them somewhere else, And I've seen on many a show that a spirit doesn't care what equipment you've got or anything. They're not interested in that. They don't care if you've got a £500 camera or a £30 ping pong ball, which I've seen quite a few times. They don't give us stuff. And they disrespect them who's got all the gadgets and that. That's a same thing. But I like to look at spirit in a basic kind of way. If you're sitting on a park bench, just talking to them. And we've found this quite a bit at Caldwell. We're respectful, always respectful. We found it called and at Loudon that the more laid back you are, the more they seem to come forward to you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, my thoughts on that are, from our perspective, again, taking it from us, right? You walk into a pub if it's a rowdy pub and people are aggressive, you just walk back out. You're not interested.
Aye.
You're not certainly going to go and speak to the guy and go, all right, how's your night gone? You're going to avoid them. So pretty much the same deal there. If you try and antagonise or whatever else, it's probably not going to be the best choice to get a reaction. That said, though, I have had that through a member of the team who was sort of military based, but his thought process was, well, if you're going to kick off and kick off, but I don't think you're capable of it, kind of thing, And then we got a revelation with that one. There was a huge thump, and so they came running out. They'd split the team into two at that point. So I was in the hub with Mary Ann, who's our other sensitive/medium. And I was in with Chris, who does some of our EVPs and stuff like that. So they all sort of burst in the door and goes like, "Did you just make a noise? Did you?" What? No, I mean, just sat here talking. All right, okay. So luckily enough, we'd locked off cameras in that particular corridor as well.
Mm-hmm.
So they sort of ran back and tried to figure out what was going on, and then discovered that it was the floor hatch that had been pushed up. So to actually do that, that's some weight, that's some level of power. Because first of all, the natural explanation for any noise you hear is, oh, something fell. But this is actually going against gravity. This is pushing up. So it's pushing it up, clatter, bang, down with such a force that you hear it. So we recorded that. That's down. I managed to get a hold of that. But again, we've replaced the cameras at distance. It's very difficult to see it because the infrared light only travels so far before you don't get the bounce back.
Mm-hmm.
So although it's in the corridor, the good thing is you can see that there's no one there doing it. But you physically can't see the thing. We had to actually discover the hatch first of all, and then when we found the hatch, made the noise, and then we're able to replicate what it was. But it must have came from below to push up.
That you had a similar experience with Spike, but I'll put Kate's question up first. Are the investigations that Alex does free for the public?
Right. So we used to run events for the public, and when we did run events, I ran it as a business. Then what I found was that because we started out just as a team first of all, then we expanded it out to the public to let them get the opportunity to experience how we do investigations, to show them some of the kit and explain how it's used in that particular environment, why it's used theoretically to be able to pick up on some of this stuff, and why maybe some of the stuff just shouldn't be used at all. And so it was a bit of a revelation for them for that sort of side of things, but they got to take part of it and do stuff. Then, but there was obviously, because it was a business at the time, there was a price tag attached to different events. Depending on the value of the place that we had to rent, then that would reflect in the price, because you can't have too many people there. I was always a huge advocate of taking less numbers with me, because it wasn't so much about the profit element. I had to run it as a business because I was making money off it at the time, and the tax man just loves that, So at the end of the day, you have to declare it as a business, but I also wanted the ability to be able to take people with us to show them these things or things like that. But then what we found was that when we were doing that you're not, when you run it as an event, you're not really doing an investigation. You're looking after the public. You're making sure they're all right. You're making sure that everybody's having, a good time. Not that you would stage anything, but what I mean, you're just making sure that there's no people that are feeling left out, or people that just are sitting there going, "Oh no, this isn't for me." I always was very aware of the team effectively that was with us that night, the group of people that was with us that night, what their take was on things, and then if maybe the majority were skeptic, because we've had that before as well. Didn't mind at all. I don't mind skeptics. I actually really quite like them, because just because I investigate the paranormal and everything else doesn't, and also speak to to spirit. When I say speak, like communicate with spirit, doesn't mean that I'm not skeptical either. To be an investigator of any sort of credibility, you have to definitely retain that sort of element there to be skeptical, because if you're not skeptical and you're just straight into just believing 100%, then then you're just putting everything down to paranormal.
Exactly.
And then it just becomes a farce effectively, because first of all, the people that are with you aren't really learning anything from an aspect of, why, like if something happened, how you would investigate that, or the stages you go through of elimination before you can consider it paranormal, and other things. So anyway, getting back to it, so we stopped doing the events, and this, they were hugely successful, and we were making quite a bit from it. I mean, I could have easily have just done it as a job full time at the time, but like I say, the problem was that because we were more focused on the people and explaining things over and over to people and the tech and stuff like that to different people, that you weren't being that investigator that you originally set out to be. Sure, things might happen on a night or whatever and things like that, and you're still always thinking of the people. Whereas when you're doing an investigation, everybody's mind's on the actual investigation. Or how can we help prove this? Or what about this theory? Or maybe try that. Or can we replicate this? Straight away you're just in that zone. But if someone's freaking out in the group, that's your priority. You need to go to the person, make sure they're all right. Do you need to step out? Do you want a wee bit of fresh air? You're having a panic attack or anything like that. You need to be sure that they're all right. You've got first aiders and standby and everything else. So there's a whole kit and caboodle attached to that. And so we no longer run events any longer. I used to run a lot for charity. I used to do it for free for charities all the time. Cash for Kids and other things like that. That's how I can't remember who it was. Was it Kate or Laura, whoever it was? It was having a look at the website when I mentioned Richard Felix and that. But so that's how we came to meet the Kate, was it? Aye. So that's how we came to meet the Radio 1 DJ. Mine's just totally gone blank. Anyway,
the radio, so I don't have a clue who it was.
Aye, well, he's
suggestions.
He is quite a popular one, but he's on. He used to do a show. Well, he still does the same show, but they used to do the show with this comedian who was on Naked Video. You might remember that one, Scott.
Vaguely.
Come on, you're of that generation. Don't give me vaguely.
Naked. Who was in that Naked Video? Who was in that?
Naked Video. It was like Rabsy Nisbet and all that.
Aye, that's right. Aye. The comb over guy.
Aye.
As well.
You know that.
Aye.
Right. So, so he was with us on this investigation. Des McLean, that's what it is, right? So he's not the presenter, by the way. He's like Naked Video and things like that. So he was a comedian, and that's what I mean by we take all people from different walks. So you've got a comedian that is going to be ripping the piss, but you still take them because you think, well, hopefully they'll experience something that'll make them think twice about something. And they certainly did that night, because they were doing voice recordings and we weren't getting much, and then bam, it just came out of the blue, and we got this brilliant response. And he was like, "Oh, the horse! Wait! This is actually real. Hold on, wait! You know." And then they started talking about it and trying different things, and it really changed his thought on it. And we'd booked 2 rooms for them. We'd booked for them to stay overnight in this particular hotel because it was quite haunted. So we booked 2 of the main haunted rooms for them. And Des was like, I'm not staying in them. You know, like there's no danger. I'm staying in these. Like we're getting different rooms right now. You're going down to reception and getting us different rooms. Whereas before he was just, you know, a bit of laugh, bit of joke, you know. But then he started to kind of turn around. He's like, "Oh my god, wow, this is brilliant." So that was nice to see, and he's this great guy to talk to as well. And I just can't remember the other guy's name. That's terrible. That is terrible. He's just a regular, but I just can't think who he is. But anyway, so they do Cash for Kids every year, and we used to work with them effectively to put a prize up for grabs on their show for businesses, and then businesses would bet for it. Cash for Kids would get the benefit, and we would take them out in the investigations. But again, going back to the fact that no, we no longer do the investigations because it was distracting from what we do. There was too many people there as well, so you've got different contaminants there that wouldn't normally be in that situation. So like hearing a noise or a bang or whatever, there's an awful lot of people. There's more movement going on than usual. You don't have the same element of control over them effectively that you would do a team. The team are familiar with the protocols and processes that go on in the group, i.e. flip on that voice recorder, audio is completely silent. You know, if you flip on the voice recorder, maybe like one of the guys will go, "I'm ready to record. Let's see what comes up." You know, when you hear a wee conversation in the background, what's going on, you know? But
it's too much stuff.
aye, it's an awful lot to consider. So it's quite different from just an investigation and an event. And because it was that, we decided to stop doing events and just run with the investigations. And going back to the charging of it, so we charged for the events at the time because it was a business, but the investigation element. So if someone contacted us and they had a problem with the house, like that family, etc., we don't charge anybody anything. You know, like even generally they want to give us at least petrol because we're out of pocket going there, but I still don't accept it. You know, I just say no, because the way I look at it is, you'd be travelling to a location anyway to investigate it, and no one's going to pay your petrol, you know. So I don't want MD to be out of pocket to see us come up to try and help them. You know what I mean? So the way I look at it, I don't charge the other group. You know, we just don't charge it. It's simple.
Plus, they're giving you a new location to investigate, basically.
Yeah, that's it as well. Yeah,
you know, they're giving you, rather than you say about, right, where can we go this weekend? You know, somebody saying, you know, here's a location for you. But being a skeptic, you need to be a skeptic. You know, even though I believe, you know, there is life after death, you need to be, like, you can way back to that farm we were talking about. You know, when you went, you've been told, you know, about the priest going, and the family told you about X, Y, and Z that happened. So, but, you know, you couldn't walk in there thinking, right, this place is definitely haunted because they said it is, and we're going, you know. So you need to be a skeptic walking in, you know, that kind of 50-50. Well, they're saying this, so maybe it's true, but let's go and have a look and see what we get, see what we think. And you need to have every location. You go, even though you believe in it, because there is, you know yourself, Alex, there's too many teams out there, and it probably happens at events as well. People just say, "That's paranormal." Did you hear that? That was a woman.
Yeah.
That's everything. You could be a bird farting in the roof. It's paranormal.
You've got that. Yeah, you know, that's another aspect of the event versus the investigation. Do you know what I mean? So you've got the investigation, the protocol, the people, the way they understand things. Sure, they still report their experiences, investigate it and stuff like that. But like you say, if you're taking a group of people that are really into or doing different things, or some of them just want to kind of maybe bam their girlfriend up and try and scare them, you know. So effectively, they're not seen as doing any harm. They're just kind of having a bit of fun, trying to freak her out. but at the same time, then you're looking in it and trying to figure out what happened. You know, what is that? And it was really, you're just basically burning air. You're not doing anything. You know, you're
Aye.
wasting your time. So it was good for a while. Don't get me wrong. I really enjoyed it. And you're always misquoted in the papers. That's the thing that I hated the most with like media and stuff like that. You're always misquoted, or they just brand you with a name. You know, like I went to BBC. We did a satellite interview with it was like a morning. I can't remember what the name of the damn show is. It's a morning show in Australia, um, on the prime time channel kind of thing. So they were wanting
Mhm.
to ask some questions about the paranormal and stuff like that, but it was because it was um, Prince, I think, was it William's place, Prince Harry's place? Can't remember now. One or the other. But basically, they had heard that the place was haunted through people that were going to visit it. So then they were basically following up on that element, and they asked, you know, would you be willing to put a bit of airtime in? So I says, I no bother, I'll, jump on. But the way like, I was just sitting, like, all you hear is one test, 1, 2, test, 1, 2, and all that in the background. Yep, we can hear the line perfect. Right, great, okay, we're going live and blah, blah, blah. And then the presenter comes on and he goes, and here we have Alex Dorrans, leading world expert in the paranormal. And I was like, what the, you know, that first of all, that makes you look like you were like, aye, I'm the dude that fucking, rocks the place. So I was just like, well, then I started talking, and it was like, so what would you say to, like Prince William or Prince Harry? I can't remember which one it was he was talking about at the time now. But what would you say to him? Like, I says, me and Harry, or me and William, I can't remember which one it was. I says, we go way back, we just we just phone him up and go like, any chance we could get your gaff? Like what?
Can I get your couch for the night? But no,
No,
to
I know.
say a leading world, expert in the paranormal, I think I'd be. I mean, the I get asked, way before we started PIH, I get asked to go on this show. An ex-friend, I'll say that's best way
Right.
to describe them. And I'd never done a podcast and that before, but he introduced me as a psychic medium.
Oh, right.
No. I pick up on random stuff. Could be weeks apart, Or I thought you were a medium. Never ever claimed to be a medium or anything, end with that. But no, I mean, the events and all, see, we don't do them. But imagine if you've got a crowd of 15, 20 people there, you're going to get one, person that's, that you give them a K2 and they're like a monkey with a balloon, jumping about and, put all this and that and, and you just need time for it. As you say, it takes the focus away from what you're actually doing, and it could annoy the spirits, I know, because it might sound stupid, but they're not getting the attention. The physical people are getting attention, and they're no. And so that could we'll go somewhere, somebody will talk to us, basically.
Well, there's two things I want to cover on that then. So the first one is a K2, and the second one is Richard Felix from Kate's conversation. I'll way back, give the question. And so just quickly cover Richard Felix. Great guy, really friendly, really chatty. He was right into the investigation. It was absolutely fascinated with the equipment we had. And so much so he thought he was actually on a television show that we were doing, and he hadn't been contracted in, like as if, wait a minute, am I due some cash here? I was like, no, it's just the kit we use, But he's like, that's professional gear, because at the time it was like the one we were using was like the actual studio audio mics and stuff like that. So you had the big boom and everything like that, and the kit lined up and stuff like that. So he actually thought he was on a show, but didn't he realise he was on a show, like maybe being filmed for a prank show or something, you know? So, so that was quite funny. But so Richard Phillips, great guy. You know, brilliant. We've kind of worked with him a couple of times, and he's been nothing but really pleasant and really friendly.
Yeah,
Um,
we had him on maybe about 2 years ago or something, and because I'd been after him for a while. And you know, he's a hard guy to get hold of. Well, to a celeb like you, he might not be, you know, but you know, you might have him on speed dial or something. But I'd been after him for a while, and we finally got in. He came on, and just before we went live, he's like, "Do you mind if I have a, you know, if I grab a wee drink?" So I thought he meant, I'll get a big mark in my specs. I thought he meant juice or something. They filled up the glass with that size, and they filled up with whiskey.
Aye, he's a whiskey drinker.
And you can see during the show was about an hour and a half, whatever. And you can see during the show, he kept, you know, going, can I go on with that?
You get the wee bit
the show, he was hammered. It was smart. It was a great show. He's a fantastic guy just to sit and chat with. And he's like, anytime you want me on, just you email me and I'll come straight. But he's never answered my bloody email. But at the end of the show, he was smashed. You know, constantly. Anyway, you were going to say about the K2 or something about K.
Yeah, right. K. So, I said the K2. So it's basically designed to pick up on the electrics. That's what the K does. So the question then becomes, you know, would we theoretically be looking at electrics for a spirit? Probably not. You know, maybe, but probably not. And so the K2s are a bit of a false positive for me. The only reason I still use the K2s is I'm thinking along the lines of if potentially there was some kind of, like again, taking it down the line of theory, if it's an energy, it's sparking a reaction or something like that. It might produce some kind of kilojolt similar to an electrical current or field or something like that. Because if it takes from the battery, it might be able to produce something similar. So potentially, yes, but theoretically, my mind's more aligned with the magnetic side of things. You know, the natural magnetic field's been manipulated and changed. So the meters that I would probably suggest using, I would look towards ones that contain the readings from electrical as well as magnetic energy. And you know, you can get them, they're, I don't know, maybe about 50 quid or something like that. So they're reasonably quite dear, I guess, in a way. But if you're going along the theory of what you're trying to look for and thinking about how that transition might be, it could be worth looking at both of those fields. So you can have a magnetic and an electric examination, and then decide for yourself. Now, when an electric reading comes up in these things, straight away you go, right, so you're in a private res, electric readings go off the wall, you're like, right, well, okay, let's crack out the voltage pen, which is probably another good piece of kit to have in your gear. And you just run it along the wall. There's the electrics there. Take it to there. Make sure that the thing's producing the electric current. Then pull it back slowly to see how far that field comes out. See if it is actually that's causing the reading. With an electric current, it generally is consistent across the board. You'll see it generally just come up and it just doesn't really fluctuate. It just comes up and it's more or less there. The fluctuation element is what is sort of question mark me, and it could be potentially, and I'm thinking if you're just out with that void, so the meter reading is taking something from behind the wall or something that's giving off an electrical leak, say, and it's producing that out so far. If you're just in and out of that area or just hitting that area and maybe it's just and no more, then you might get the fluctuation as well. But if you walk towards it, it'll become more stronger. So it's definitely things like that that it would help you sort of myth bust whether or not it's going to be a potentially a valid question mark reading that you might go, what is actually causing that? Or you could identify it by going, yep, voltage span shows that the electricity is there. There's the reading there that comes out as far as here. Yep, it's definitely that. Metal halide lights, they give off a huge reading. You know, like you've got these places with the old halide lights, spotlights. When they're on and they come down, the meters, they affect the meters and they produce some amount of energy coming down as well. So if you're getting a meter reading and it's kind of fluctuating, it might just be from the top down. So then just raise your meter up and you might see it just sit consistently, which is showing you the electrics from above. So it's just things like that.
See, there, I'm not a big tech guy. Sharing that likes a tech, I don't, but I like the K2. And I know there's 101 things that can set it off, which isn't paranormal or spirit or anything, but we've had quite a few times where we've had movement on the K2's lit up and we can't explain it. I'll give you two quick ones. One was Kilmarnock train station. We investigated there a few times, and what is we call the games room. But you would put the K2 in the middle of this room. Now, there's lights, the ceiling's maybe 10, 12 feet up. You would put the K2 in the middle of this room and it would go absolutely nuts. So what we did was I stand on the table and hold it up to the lights and it would go flat. I'd put it on the floor and it would go totally flat. I'd walk out. The area was maybe about 5, 6 feet widthwise. You'd walk out of this particular area in the middle of the room and it would go flat. As soon as you step back into this one bit, it would go, and it happened every time. We swapped to it, we used tried different meters, same thing. I stood up, held it to the lights, put it on the floor, nothing. I was just in this one particular area in this room that this meter would go nuts. And we couldn't explain it.
That's unusual. Was it fluctuating or was it actually just a steady reading?
No, I was going up and down and up and down.
Right, okay.
And Spig, they came as one night and they witnessed it as well. And so, well, we can't explain that. The other time was a location we did with Spig where we got the swinging door. There's a case there. It's one of these glass case, and there's all bits and pieces from the building's history in this case. If you put the K2 on it, it goes nuts. But I'll put it. You put it against the wall, and there's nothing. One of the guys is Spike. He works there. He's worked there for over 20 years, and was showing him it. He says there's no wires or anything in that wall. There's nothing. He knows the building brick by brick.
Yeah.
You put it on the floor, nothing. Hold it again. Same scenario as the train station. As soon as you put it on this cabinet, and this cabinet's full of old caps and medals and stuff like that. There's nothing electrical. As soon as you put it on this cabinet, it just goes crazy. And I've never been able to explain it, but I say, I know a lot of people doubt it, but I always say, if you've got a K2 sitting, maybe 10, 15 minutes and it's dead, as I call it, and then you ask a specific question and say, can you make that go to yellow or orange? And that goes to orange and then back down again. And it stays that way until you ask another question. That I find hard to explain. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what we use the K2. That's how we rely on the K2.
Aye, so you're asking questions and then it's fluctuating with the answers. So effectively trying to demonstrate an intelligence by asking it to interact with the device in order to demonstrate an intelligence, whereby you ask a question and then it will flip back and we've done that ourselves on events and things like that. I don't know. If it's consistent, then that is interesting, 100%. If it doesn't do it all the time and does do it sometimes, then it's more lying in the realms of random for me. You know,
Mhm.
like I like things to be consistent in order to prove it. So um, if something like that does happen and it's consistent with the questions, then that is a good piece of footage. That's a good piece of evidence.
We get it. We get it quite a lot at Loudon. Colwell, we go all the time. Um, the the biggest one I think, or the most weirdest one for me is it's an old abandoned power station, and I think there was 3 or 4 days there, and we'd been up the top floor. Didn't get very much, and we came down the stairwell, and there'd been activity in the stairwell before. No much, just wee bits and pieces, but we decided, right, we'll go down the stairs, have a wander about, and I put the K2 down on the stairs, at the bottom of the stairs, and I was having a cigarette. So I thought to myself, do you know what? And I just, by chance, I just turned around and said, if there's anybody here and you'd like a cigarette, make that go to yellow.
Right.
And it went to yellow. And I says to the other, says, that just went to yellow. It's an abandoned building. It's been empty. It's abandoned since 1982. There's no electrics in it, no nothing. So I says, can you do that for me again if you'd like a cigarette? And it went to yellow.
Okay.
And so I took out a cigarette and I left it on the stairs. I put it on the stairs. I says, right here, this is for you. You can have that. We're going to go now. If you're going to say thank you, can you make that box go to, I call it a black box. You know, I know different teams use their proper names, but we just say a black box. I said, can you make that box go to yellow again for me? If you're going to say thank you. And it went to yellow. And so I left the fact. Some folks say, why did you leave the cigarette there? I said, because, you know, whoever it was wanted
a
one.
cigarette.
And they'd say thank you. So it's just respectful just to leave it. So
Yeah.
I call it the smoking ghost because I didn't have a name for it. And there was another 3 people there, and they all witnessed this. They were standing watching it, and I just couldn't explain that one.
Yeah. No, that's an unusual one.
It's when you get wee bits. It wasn't recorded. We didn't film it or anything. It's when you get wee bits like that. You know, you know yourself, Alex. People think that, you know, to get evidence, it has to be, I've said before, headstones flying through the air or something like that, you know, tables, or they can thrown about the room. But it can be the slightest little thing. And that's what I was going to say, but, you know, you were talking about events and that. You know, if you're standing, you get these skeptics go to events, great. And then something happens. Have you ever done an event and you've just been watching the crowd, whatever you want to call them, and one particular person, you see their face change or something, or they'll turn round slightly and look about, you know, but they'll not say anything to anybody because, you know, it's something that they've heard or felt, you know.
Yeah.
And then
No,
they'll go
definitely.
back, you know. I think that's important.
Yeah, it is. And like at the start of the event, we used to like encourage people to say, like, you're obviously here on, obviously looking for spirits, ghosts, however you want to, you know, call it, name it. So if you do experience something, definitely shout out because end of the day, we can then look further into what you're experiencing. It could be anything. It could be something down to so we had a case. This is going back. Oh God, I don't know, 10+ years anyway. But basically, it was a house residence, and the mother had contacted us. The baby was going pure wild in the cot. You know, she's just been to settle, blah blah blah, and you're thinking, all right, the babies do that, you know. But she just had that mother's instinct that something was wrong, something wasn't right. So we're like, right, okay, we'll come down and we'll have a look, see if there's anything we can communicate. If something's bothering the baby or whatever, we'll try and figure out what's going on. So we came down, went into the room, ran our baseline checks along and stuff. So again, baseline checks, reasonably important. Michael takes care of that and our group for that, but they give you a show of what the layout of the place looks like before you actually investigate. So you've got a flat rate. If you can't always get the time to do that, fair play. I understand that because it's, depending on the size of the location as well. I mean, we had huge hotels. You're not going to go around everywhere doing it,
Aye.
but sometimes as you go room to room, you do a baseline check and then, go in and then see what you get. But this particular instance anyway, we went in, took a run baseline check of the room to see what was going on. So, the meter readings round and stuff like that. And this was off the charts at the cot. So for me, I'm like, right, well, what's causing that? How far out does that come? So we brought it out we've discovered the source was at the wall, and it comes out across the cot at full pelt as well. I'm talking red, right heavy on the K2 at the time. And it came out quite a distance, a few feet out from the cot, maybe a bit further, but not much. And so the cot was in the corner kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the readings were coming from this wall, and so we ran it round the voltage pen and stuff like that to figure out where the area is affected, and then we looked at where the electric cupboard was, because that can be the source of things as well at times, and it wasn't within the vicinity of the cot, so it looked like there was a problem with the electrics, some kind of electrical leak or something like that. So basically, if you're anyone, not just the baby, but more specifically a baby, because their brain's still developing as far as, the skull cap and everything else, so they're probably a bit more exposed to it than most people. But if you're in a field that's strong, a really strong magnetic field for any great length of time, then yes, like if you're sleeping in that area, for example, you go to bed, you're sleeping in that area, then yes, you can experience hallucinations effectively, because you're in the science element side of it is that you would be in a high magnetic field, resting your head down, bearing in mind that your eyes resonate at a frequency of 18/19 hertz, right? So the magnetic field that you're currently in would be sort of interfering with that vibration, which would then cause shadow effects and everything else. I mean, there was even there's two residences that I can think of straight off the hat that this was the reason for the haunting. But in this particular occasion, it was like an electrical leak. So what we done was we said to the mother, look, we've discovered what looks to be an electrical leak basically coming from that particular area. I strongly suggest you speak to the council about getting an electrician out to have a look at your electrics to try and sort out what's going on there. Because that shouldn't be as strong as that. It's not healthy for anything to be sitting there in that field for any great length of time. So let's move the cot, if you like, to the other side of the room, or just completely, boycott the room, take the cot in with you. And so sure enough, she did that. Boom, job's done. Done's a good one. Slept, no problem. And, can I thank us enough for it? So that was the solution for a haunting that was actually a natural explanation. The second one I'm thinking of was another similar case, which was a private residence, and her bed was lying next to one of those, I don't know if you've seen them, see the wee touch lamps, you'd press them and they go on and off.
Aye, we do a couple of them.
Aye, right, so it was off the charts again, like proper, like the thing was obviously busted. but it was giving out quite a strong electrical field, and
Mm-hmm.
right next to where her pillow was, and she was seeing, the shadows and everything else moving around the room. And so basically I said, right, well, what to do is, let's wrap this up, take it away. I says, you don't mind me doing this, do you? Let's put that there. I says, right, so I'm not saying bin the lamp yet or anything like that, but what I do want you to do is try going into your bed and sleeping in that room the night. See if you get any of the ghosts or anything like that usually come to you.
Mm-hmm.
And nah, again, same deal. No problems, no issues. Shadows are gone. She was no problems. She was absolutely beside herself. So that lamp get the bin. And there's been other cases similar. So there are certain things that are natural that, although what it sounds like is an absolute nightmare for the person experiencing it, there are natural explanations for them.
And I suppose it's a good thing, but it's a bit of downer as well. You go to this house, you've been told it's haunted, you go and you discover, all right, there's nothing here. But the good side is that you've helped that woman or family or child, whoever
Yeah.
it is. You
Well, yeah,
you've helped
100%.
them.
Looking at, like anybody that's asked for help, we go there with 100% genuine effort to try and help them. We're not interested in playing about and doing all the nonsense. It's just basically, right, what's the facts? What you're looking for? What's happening? Right. So let's try and figure out what's going on here. If we can figure out who this person is or whatever, or try and indicate. Sometimes that can resolve the situation when you figure out what it is that's going on, and they move on, or do whatever it is they want to do, or at least they're settled and they can coexist. Like one particular case, and I kid you not, this was a belter. Went down, and again, another private residence we're in, and it was the hand of orange up in the wall, flag and all that.
Aye.
Gone ballistic, right? So the previous residents used to live in there, and the guy that died in there was Catholic. So he was doing his thing about this, So basically, it was like, if you want peace, instead of moving, just take down the flag. I mean, come on, let's. You can put flags out in the garden. You can do whatever you want, but just take down the flag.
Take it off that wall.
You know what I mean? And so that was that. And again, business as usual. Things were sorted. Everything was fine. So sometimes things like that can affect the activity.
It can be the smallest thing that you wouldn't think of that can upset, a spirit that's there, or, if somebody keeps leaving a particular cupboard door open, maybe it annoys that spirit. And at the end of the day, they can't turn and say, going to shut that door. You keep forgetting that, they're supposed to do something else to get your attention or whatever. But I've just noticed the time, young man. We've been on our tours.
No bother.
So what I'll do is I'm going to bring you back because I want to talk to you about Loudon and Greyfriars and stuff as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got a few things still to chat with you about because it's been a long time getting you on. You're that much of a celeb and that much of a busy man. You know what I'm saying?
Don't you do that to me, I know. Jesus Christ. No, it's just it is hard time, but I work a lot of shifts and stuff like that, and then obviously I've got, like when I'm on day shift, I've got stuff that I need to catch up on. It's a nightmare, and so try to get stuff like as you know, I don't do much on the side of social media, things like that. Myself, I'm pretty much just get the guts and stuff done that I need to get done and move on. If I'm looking at footage and investigating stuff, and I find stuff, certainly I'll fling it up maybe. Not all the time at all as well. It's sort of few and far between, like sometimes I'll just chuck something up, sometimes I won't. But it just generally is what it is, But we'll definitely try and get another date then if you've got more questions and other people want to ask more stuff.
I don't know, I've got more stuff to go, but I'll throw you some dates for June. So where can people find you?
Yeah, well, as Kate knows, we have our website, which is ghosthunters.org.uk. And or you could also get us on ghosthunterscotland.org.uk, depending on whatever one you put in. And the Facebook page. These are the two sort of ones we use. We don't use any of the other platforms or anything like that. So yeah, you can get us on Facebook as well.
So give them a wee look up, folks. As you've heard, he's quite an interesting guy, and he's from Glasgow as well. So that's what more does one need?
Thank you kindly.
I'm from the nice bit of the south side, the green belt of Glasgow. I'm from Pollock, the green belt. The good side. But we'll wait. I'll keep a holiday just for a wee side after we come up with, if that's all right. We'll wind it up there, folks. So a big thanks to Alex for joining us tonight. You will be seeing him again, and to everybody. You're welcome. You're welcome. And you will be seeing him again. Thanks to everybody in the chat. We're back on Sunday night with actress Dominique Herrera, a friend of John Azuna. And Sunday, we're in Glasgow to start filming episode 2 of the Wallace Show. Just another wee plug there. So we'll start episode 2 on Sunday in our hometown of Glasgow. Weather permitting. You always need to add that in these days, don't you?
Absolutely.
We'll be doing this weather permitting. So we're looking forward to that. So we're going to love yous and leave yous, and hopefully we'll talk to you. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll talk to you all at the weekend, hopefully. All right, folks. Yeah. Take care.
Have a good one, guys.
Bye. Well, I'll end there.